Es viernes 31 de mayo, nos encontramos en plena declaración del impuesto sobre la renta de las personas físicas. Hasta dentro de un mes exactamente terminará esa campaña de la renta, en un momento en el que se centran muchas críticas sobre el erario público español. Uno de ellos es, en este caso, un bufete británico, Amsterdam Partners, que ha dejado bastantes críticas, en este caso incluso asegurando que las tácticas del sistema tributario español dejan mucho que desear. Uno de esos miembros del despacho es Robert Amsterdam, es abogado y autor del libro Hacienda The People, donde precisamente se da cuenta de estas prácticas bastante irreverentes, por ser algo suaves, del sistema fiscal español. Vamos a intentar analizar esas consecuencias. Saludamos ya a Robert Ámsterdam. Hi, Robert. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Well, you speak of systematic abuses by the Spanish tax agency. Could you specify what kinds of practices you consider abusive?
Look, the Spanish tax authority does not follow the rule of law. The incentives they give the inspectors really provide an incentive for the inspectors to simply take as much money off the taxpayer as possible. The inspector is never penalized if the taxpayer in the end is right. And that makes sense because in Spain, you have to pay all the tax ahead of time. It's a completely crazy system in Spain where they can screw you on the assessment. You then have to pay the whole assessment, and then you have to wait 5 or 10 years to win. And in addition to that, if you have a complete compliant program and you've done everything right, they hit you with this concept of simulación, where they can argue that because you're doing everything right, you must be committing fraud. It's outrageous. Spain's system stands alone. It reflects a terrible weakness in Spanish democracy and rule of law.
Robert, the report mentions tactics of fiscal extortion and coercion. Can you give concrete examples of these practices in action?
There are so many. Since we've begun talking to people, we've had hundreds of people write to us about being threatened with criminal charges, about being essentially having all of their customers receiving notices from the tax authority so that their business is broken. Spain is one of the few countries where the tax authority seems to delight in destroying businesses. I've never seen anything like it. You have a government that wants foreign investment, and you have a tax authority that does everything it can to kill entrepreneurs and young business people. And the threats of criminal sanctions, the threats of bankruptcy, the interference with your personal life, meeting your neighbors, having your neighbors inform on you, situations that in any other country would involve significant breaches of the law. People in Spain take it for granted. I mean, your tax authority made a statement last week that no tax authority anywhere in the world would ever make. They made a notice to Spain that when you have a wedding, you make sure that you report the wedding presents. Then you have someone else in the government stand up and say, she's watching all your social media, as if you're in the Soviet Union under Brezhnev. I mean, what are you people thinking? It should not take a foreigner to tell you that the Hacienda is behaving in a manner that is completely outside of any democratic practice. You need to stop this behavior. You need to make this a political issue. You need to make Hacienda obey the law. Right now, they're getting into databases they have no right to get into. They're making incredibly aggressive claims against Spanish people. I can't tell you the policemen I've spoken to who have lost their cars, people with mental illness who have lost their bank accounts. What's going on in Spain doesn't happen in Central Africa. Our expert, Dr. Wales, he works with Uganda. He works with other countries in Africa, and he says those tax authorities have more respect for their citizens than Spain does. And it's not a surprise that your politicians say nothing, because Mr. Sanchez is raising your taxes every day. Don't believe whatever the tax rate is the government tells you, because you are paying a big bonus to these inspectors to take more and more of your money. Forget 47%. If you get audited, they will take everything everything they can take that isn't nailed down.
Robert, we talk about celebrities. The report denounced a hostile approach toward foreign taxpayers under the Beckham law. Why do you believe the Spanish tax agency targets this group in particular, and how would you compare the treatment on public figures like Shakira, Messi in Spain? What will happen in other democratic countries?
This is a part of the psychosis and fear of Hacienda. Hacienda behaves like the mafia. They take down the biggest names to inspire fear in the people. And this doesn't just go for foreigners, it goes for even local Spanish celebrities. It's called in English getting a scalp. And the idea is to instill fear. Spain is the only country that instead of celebrating their celebrities, they try to put them in jail. And in addition, I want to tell you that the reason the Beckham law is important is that it gives us trade tools. It gives us international legal tools to go after Hacienda. Today, the United States announced that with respect to other countries whose taxation policies discriminate against Americans, the United States will initiate sanctions. So we intend to go to Washington and make our case with respect to Hacienda, because no political party in Spain is going to stand up for the Spanish people. So we need to get foreign countries to make this a trade case so that Spanish people will be protected from their own government, allowing this Stasi-like organization to continue to terrorize the Spanish people.
Mm-hmm. You talk about Spanish police. What kind of testimonies have you received from Spanish citizens? Are there any recurring patterns in these accounts?
Always, always. I've spoken to citizens who believe they've been the victims of political use of the tax agency. They've made an enemy in the socialist government, and now they're audited. They've made a statement that the government doesn't agree with. Now they're audited. They didn't collapse at the first opportunity in some civil dispute with somebody connected to the government, so now they're audited. It is an ongoing theme of abuse of discretion. And I will tell you, I've been a lawyer for 45 years. I'm banned in 8 countries. I've fought in Russia, in Africa, in Thailand. The fear that the Hacienda inspires in the citizens of Spain reminds me of the Soviet Union 50 years ago. And every Spanish citizen should be ashamed of their silence. And in the face of this terror that is going on in Spain, where people are afraid to speak out because they're afraid, you know, when I go to lawyers, they don't want to work with me because they tell me, you know what, if I work with you, I'll be audited. If I work with you, my clients will be audited. It's shameful. It is not the rule of law in Spain. It is the rule of fear. And also, I think in Spain, you are numbed to a lack of governance. You have a government that hasn't passed a budget in 3 years. You have a government where corruption is every day, in every way. And I want to be clear, I'm not taking any political side because under the PP, the Hacienda was terrible as well. So this is not a political play. This is an issue of Spanish governance, Spanish elites not looking after the interests of their own people.
Mm-hmm. Many tax figures in the case of Popular Party or PSOE. Robert, do you intend to bring this case before the European Court of Human Rights, of the Court of Justice of the European Union?
We will go everywhere, to every court we can, but I want to let people know, we will not play the game of Hacienda to take 10 years. We will use the fact that Hacienda is breaking trade law, that Hacienda is breaking the rule of law, to make this an immediate political issue. And we will go to different parts of Spain, and we will talk to more and more victims and make sure that the people of Spain are aware that there is a rule of law somewhere and that they need to stand up for their rights and denounce people who threaten them by threatening their privacy, threatening their security in their own home, misusing the law, perverting the Constitution of Spain. What Hacienda is doing is an unforgivable black mark on the history of Spain.
Mm-hmm. Finally, what are you ultimately hoping to achieve with this legal initiative, tax reform, compensation for victims?
Look, Spain doesn't pay its debts. You would have to be pretty foolish to be doing this for money. We want to see Spain rejoin the rule of law. We want to see Spanish citizens and those foreigners who want to enjoy Spain, which is a wonderful country, we want them to live in peace and security in a situation and a country governed by law, not by fear, not by terror, and not by corruption.
Mm-hmm. You argue that fundamental rights are being violated. Which specific rights are at stake?
Listen, the right to property, number one, the right against self-incrimination, the right of privacy, the right of protection of the family, the right of free speech. I can go on and on. The misuse of the criminal law puts everyone in jeopardy that has to deal with Hacienda. The violation of the good governance guarantee in the Constitution of the EU, the free movement of capital, the free movement of people. There are so many legal precepts Hacienda is violating. It's almost impossible to put them all together.
Well, that's all, folks. Robert Amsterdam, autor del libro Hacienda The People. Thank you for coming here in Negocios TV. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Ya lo han oído, la denuncia del sistema.